What if everything you were taught about love, about being kind, generous, dependable, was only half the story? What if the very things you do to prove your love are quietly killing her attraction? She won't say it out loud. She may not even know it herself. But something inside her changes when you give too much, too soon, too easily. And if you've ever been left wondering, why did she pull away when I gave her everything? You're about to understand. This isn't about manipulation. It's about truth. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Let's begin. Part 1. The silence beneath her smile. In a quiet suburb outside Dallas, in a townhouse lined with maple trees that turned gold in October, there's a man named Luke who does everything right. Every morning, before the coffee pot finishes brewing, he sends her a text. "Good morning, beautiful." She once mentioned she liked sunflowers more than roses, so that became his ritual. He remembered every little thing: her favorite scent, lavender; her favorite wine, a chilled Pinot Grigio. He planned Sunday strolls through White Rock Lake, booked reservations weeks in advance, and kept her side of the bed warm when she worked late. But lately, her smiles don't quite reach her eyes. Her laugh, once effortless, is now delayed, like it needs permission. She pulls away quicker when they kiss. And Luke, devoted and careful and good-hearted Luke, doesn't understand. He lies awake at night staring at the ceiling, wondering if he said something wrong, if maybe he forgot something important. But it's none of that. The truth is quieter than heartbreak. It's the dull ache of knowing you've become too easy to love. Because somewhere between the perfectly timed compliments and the thoughtful gestures, Luke stopped being a mystery. And what he doesn't realize is this: love doesn't die in a single moment. It erodes in comfort, in predictability, in always saying yes. Desire doesn't crave perfection. It craves presence and the possibility of loss. And in giving her everything, Luke forgot the one thing she still wanted to earn: his heart. Not the parts he handed over, but the ones he kept. Part 2. Hypergamy in High Heels. Long before the days of almond milk lattes and Spotify playlists curated for every mood, women lived in a world where choosing the wrong man could mean starvation, vulnerability, or exile. In that world, love wasn't romantic. It was strategic. And survival? That was the ultimate aphrodisiac. Fast forward to a bar on a humid Thursday night in Austin. Neon lights hum low. There's music in the air, and the scent of citrus and cologne drifting like memory. Talia, a smart and ambitious woman in her late 20s, is on a second date with two men. One is Alex, a clean-cut engineer with a quiet voice and a six-figure job in tech. He opens doors, laughs at the right moments, and compliments her dress like he rehearsed it. The other is Eli, a street musician who carries himself like the world doesn't owe him anything. He doesn't ask many questions, doesn't over-explain. He just listens with eyes that don't flinch. And while Alex talks about stock options and weekend hiking trips, Talia can't stop glancing at Eli, wondering what it would be like to be chosen by someone who doesn't need her, yet still wants her. This isn't about money. It never really is. Hypergamy isn't gold digging, it's instinct. Buried in the marrow of every woman is the question she doesn't ask out loud. If everything fell apart, would this man still be standing? It's not about the prettiest words. It's about the calm in his silence, the gravity in his stillness, the sense that if the lights went out, he'd know how to find the way. Part 3. The Bartender versus the Banker. In San Diego's Gaslamp Quarter, where the streets shimmer with the glow of ambition and the echo of expensive shoes, Jason lived the life most men thought women dreamed of. He was tall, well-groomed, always pressed in tailored suits. His silver Mercedes glided through traffic like he owned the road. Reservations were made weeks in advance. Flowers were delivered before she even hinted. He was the man who had it all, on paper. But paper burns fast. One by one, the women drifted. Not angrily, not dramatically, just quietly. They stopped replying. They got busy. They needed space. And Jason, polite to a fault, kept wondering where he went wrong. A few blocks away, Marco poured whiskey for strangers in a dim bar with exposed brick and the kind of lighting that made everyone look a little more interesting. He wore scuffed boots, didn't own a suit, and didn't say much unless he meant it. But when he looked at you, he really looked. He never over-explained, never over-promised. He didn't check his phone nervously after sending a message. He sent none at all. Women leaned in, laughed louder, stayed longer. Because in his silence, there was something magnetic. It wasn't about riches, it was about rhythm. Jason offered the world before anyone asked for it. Marco offered himself, sparingly. And in that restraint, in that steady confidence, he became something Jason never learned to be. A man whose presence made her wonder, not a man whose perfection made her yawn. Part 4. The Power of Not Knowing. In the sultry hush of a New Orleans summer, where the air feels thick enough to carry secrets, Elise sits on the balcony of her French Quarter apartment, iced coffee sweating beside her, eyes flicking to her phone more often than she'll admit. There are two men in her recent orbit. One sends her a good morning text every day at 8:03 a.m., sharp. Compliments her outfit before she posts it. Reacts to every story like he's clinging to a lifeline. He's sweet, predictable, safe. The other? He vanished 2 days ago. No text, no emoji, just a silence that echoes louder than words. And Elise, normally grounded, rational Elise, feels something in her chest she can't name. She checks her phone like it's a game of chance. Like one buzz might mean everything. That's the thing no one tells you about certainty. It numbs. When you always know what's coming, your heart forgets how to race. But not knowing where you stand. If he's thinking of you, if he'll reach out first, or if the silence means goodbye. That pulls you in. That keeps you up at night. It's not cruelty. It's contrast. The dance between presence and distance. And in that tension, where hope tangles with doubt and imagination fills in the blanks, obsession is born. Elise doesn't even like games. But this isn't a game. This is chemistry, wrapped in mystery, dipped in danger. And she can't stop pulling the lever, waiting for the screen to light up. Part 5. Scarcity and Mystery. In the misty rhythm of a Seattle afternoon, where rain taps soft against coffee shop windows and time moves like fog, Max sat across from Claire, a woman who commanded rooms without raising her voice. She was used to compliments, too used to them. At networking events, men lined up to praise her dress, her voice, her mind. The words flowed easily, like free samples in a grocery aisle, and just like those samples, they rarely left a taste. But Max was different. He never complimented her when she expected it, never tossed words just to fill space. His silence wasn't cold, it was calibrated. And when he did speak, when he leaned back one night after she dismantled a boardroom argument with grace and grit and said, "That was impressive," Claire felt something she hadn't felt in years. Seen, not for her beauty, Not for her charm, but for something she did, something she earned. It wasn't the compliment that made her cheeks flush. It was the fact that he waited to give it, that it meant something. Max treated his approval like a rare perfume, a scent you catch only when you lean in close, not sprayed freely in every hallway. Scarcity isn't cruelty, it's clarity. It tells her, this is worth something. And mystery? Mystery is the quiet reminder that you don't get to the summit without the climb. Claire didn't glow because Max worshipped her. She glowed because, with him, praise was a treasure, and she was still digging. Part 6. The Death of Mystery. In Atlanta, where the summers hum and the evenings stretch long into firefly skies, Daniel thought love was a matter of routine. He wasn't careless, far from it. He planned, he remembered, he showed up. Tuesday night tacos at the same spot where they once shared their first kiss under flickering patio lights. Friday movies, always at 7, always with popcorn. Sunday brunch, 2 lattes, no surprises. At first, she adored it. There was comfort in his consistency, safety in his presence. But by month 3, something shifted. She started hesitating before answering his texts. She had plans on Fridays, errands on Sundays. Her eyes still smiled, but her voice didn't. Daniel couldn't understand. He'd done everything right. What he didn't know was this: when love becomes a schedule, it stops being a story. She could see the whole movie before it played. Every scene, every line, every ending. Mystery is the spark behind passion. Not confusion, but curiosity. The subtle wondering of what's next. Not because you're playing games, but because you're still growing, still unfolding. But Daniel, sweet, dependable Daniel, had become a finished book sitting on her nightstand. Already read, already understood. And even though she cared, even though she respected him, her heart needed something more than the next reservation. It needed the unexpected, the spontaneous, the sense that at any moment he might surprise her, because he still had edges she hadn't explored. And without that, love slowly fades, not from neglect, but from knowing too much, too soon. Part 7. The Hidden Tests. In a cozy bar just outside Charleston, the kind where string lights hang like soft promises and old blues plays low in the background, a woman named Brielle leaned over her wine glass and casually said, "That guy by the jukebox? He's kinda hot." Her date, Mason, barely blinked. He followed her gaze, nodded once, and replied with a slow smile, "Yeah." Decent jawline. Then he went back to sipping his bourbon like nothing had shifted. But something had. Because that moment wasn't about a stranger across the room. It was about her question behind the comment. Can you hold your ground? Or will you beg to be chosen? Women don't always test with logic. They test with instinct. With silence. With sharp glances and last-minute cancellations. They cancel dinner not to ruin your night, but to see if your world collapses without them. Brielle wasn't looking for a reaction. She was looking for reflection. Would he scramble to win her back? Apologize for something he didn't do? Or would he stay calm in the face of uncertainty? Mason didn't flinch. He didn't explain or chase. And in that quiet self-possession, he passed a test she didn't even know she was given. These aren't games. They're unconscious checkpoints. A woman's way of asking, are you strong enough to lead me through a storm, even when I'm the one stirring the clouds? Frame isn't bravado. It's steadiness. And when you hold it, you hold her curiosity too. Part 8. Her body knows first. in the gray stillness of a Portland winter. Where rain clings to windows like unanswered questions, a woman named Ivy sat across from her therapist, her voice soft but certain. He's kind, thoughtful. He brings me soup when I'm sick. Texts me goodnight. But when he touches me now, I just don't feel it. Her eyes drifted toward the floor, as if ashamed of her own biology. But the truth was older than shame. What Ivy couldn't name, what science has long whispered and poets have tried to capture, is that a woman's attraction lives not in her head, but in her body. And her body always knows. When a man's frame collapses, when he abandons his grounded energy, loses his quiet confidence, begins orbiting around her instead of standing beside her, something ancestral inside her takes notice and shifts. His touch, once magnetic, now feels cloying. His jokes, once charming, fall like pebbles into silence. Even his scent, the very chemistry that once drew her in, feels off. Too sweet, too close. It's not a choice, it's not punishment, it's instinct. Thousands of years ago, a woman's survival depended on choosing a man who could stand firm against wolves, against hunger, against the weight of uncertainty. Today, the wolves wear different faces, but the instinct remains, and when her body no longer believes you can protect her, or protect your own sense of self, it withdraws long before her words ever do. Because love may be spoken with the heart, but attraction whispers through the bones. Part 9. Abundance isn't arrogance. In the quiet corners of downtown Chicago, where the city hums like a heartbeat beneath winter coats and late trains, there was a man named Theo who never rushed. He lived in a modest loft with high ceilings and worn leather books. He drank his coffee black, answered his texts when he felt like it, and always walked like he was heading somewhere. Because he was, even if no one else knew where. Women noticed him. Not because he tried, but because he didn't. There was something about the way he listened, fully, but not eagerly. Something about the way he left space in conversation, like he wasn't trying to fill silence but letting it breathe. One night, after their third date, Olivia tilted her head, half curious, half nervous. "Are you seeing anyone else?" she asked, fingers playing with the stem of her wine glass. Theo didn't flinch, didn't smirk, just smiled softly and said, "I'm seeing where life takes me." She felt it then. Not jealousy, not confusion. Gravity. It wasn't about games. It was about abundance. The kind that isn't loud or performative, but rooted deep. Theo didn't chase. Not because he was arrogant, but because he knew himself. He wasn't afraid to be alone. He had his life, his rhythm, his center. And in that calm detachment, Olivia didn't feel dismissed. She felt pulled in. Abundance isn't about having other women. It's about never needing one to feel whole. Real power doesn't posture. It simply is, and she could feel it. Every time he didn't reach, she leaned closer. Part 10. Masculine Leadership. In the crisp, pine-scented air of Denver, where the mountains stand like ancient promises and the nights turn cold without warning, Lucas pulled his truck up to her building at 6:59 p.m. sharp. Earlier that day, his text had been simple. "Put on something warm. I'm picking you up at 7. No questions. No back and forth. No. What do you feel like doing?" And for Emily, who had spent years planning everyone else's schedules, picking restaurants, settling debates over everything from movie genres to vacation spots, it was a breath of fresh air. It wasn't just about the dinner, it was about the direction. He had chosen a tucked-away jazz lounge with brick walls and soft lighting, the kind of place where no one checked their phone and time slowed down. And the whole evening, Emily didn't have to think. She just got to be. That's the power of true masculine leadership. Not control, but clarity. Not barking orders, but building trust. Lucas didn't lead to feel superior. He led because he knew where he was going and wanted her to come along. Masculine leadership isn't about taking charge of her. It's about taking charge of yourself, your choices, your path, your presence, and offering her a seat beside you, not beneath you. Because when a woman feels like she can rest in your direction, when she doesn't have to carry the emotional weight of decision-making, her heart relaxes, and in that moment of stillness, of surrender, not to you, but to trust, that's where love begins to bloom. Part 11. The Cost of Overinvestment. In a sun-drenched corner of Santa Barbara, where bougainvillea climbs like soft fire along white stucco walls, Noah thought he was doing everything right. He texted first. Always. He made the plans, paid the bills, anticipated her moods before she named them. He was available. Completely. Endlessly. Lovingly available. But Ava? She began to drift. Not out of cruelty. Not even out of confusion. But because something inside her felt the weight of his effort and realized she never had to lift her own. Attraction isn't balanced like love. It's tilted, mysterious. It lives in the unanswered questions, the asymmetry, the chase. When one person carries all the emotional load, initiates, gives, adjusts, pursues, something subtle dies in the other. Not appreciation, but curiosity. It's not that Ava didn't like Noah. It's that she didn't have to wonder about him. He was always there, like a song on repeat. She never got to reach. And without that reaching, without that leaning in, there was no thrill, no bloom of maybe, no spark of uncertainty that keeps the heart awake at night. Power in attraction belongs to the one who waits, not passively, but with groundedness. So let her reach first. Let her wonder. Let her lean forward into your silence. Then meet her, not with desperation, but with warmth. Because when she chooses you, not out of guilt, not out of comfort, but out of desire, everything changes. And love, born not of duty, but of yearning, finally breathes. Part 12. Holding Frame. In the golden hour light of a savanna evening, where Spanish moss drapes like whispers from ancient trees, Maren sat across from Caleb on a weathered porch swing. The sky behind them bruised into twilight, and the air was heavy with things unsaid. She'd been cold all night, distant, testing. Not because she wanted to break him, but because she needed to know if he could hold. Women test not out of malice, but memory. Somewhere deep in the marrow of their instincts is the question, when the winds come, will this man still be standing? Caleb didn't rise to her bait. He didn't ask what was wrong 10 different ways. He didn't try to fix the silence. He just sat there, present, steady, sipping his sweet tea as if the storm she stirred inside herself didn't scare him. Because it didn't. That's what it means to hold frame. It's not about being stubborn. It's not about winning. It's about knowing your truth so deeply that you don't need her mood to validate it. The man who holds frame doesn't crack when she withdraws affection or raises her voice. He doesn't chase after every tear or bend to every unspoken demand. He stays rooted, not as a wall, but as an anchor. And in that steadiness, Maren saw something rare. Not a man trying to prove his strength, but a man who already knew it. And that, more than any poem or promise, made her heart lean back in. Because finally, she found someone she wouldn't have to hold alone. Final reflection. What she feels. She follows. She won't remember your GPA or the size of your paycheck. She'll remember how you made her feel on a Tuesday morning, when the coffee was bitter and the world felt heavy. But you were calm, steady, present. Women don't fall for bullet points. They fall for the man whose presence feels like poetry in a noisy room. Be the quiet certainty in her chaos, the warmth that doesn't smother, the strength that doesn't shout. Let her reach, but don't vanish. Let her feel safe, but not certain. Because in the space between comfort and curiosity, that's where her heart decides to stay.